everyone, this is Maggie, and this video we're going to talk about all the villains from this latest episode of Batwoman. I just finished watching episode 3, and there was some predictable villains that we saw this episode, some new villains, and some possible Easter eggs for upcoming villains that I want to talk about. Because the villains that they have here do affect the entire CW verse now that we are all on one Earth. So like I mentioned, I just finished watching episode 3 yesterday. I watched it yesterday now. But I thought it was a really good episode. If you guys haven't watched any of this season, I do recommend watching it because it's a little different than the first season, but I think it's just as good as the other CW shows. And I personally prefer this season over last season, so I encourage you to at least check it out and give it a chance. We are starting to see Ryan get the hang of being Batwoman little by little while she simultaneously works on her personal life as well. I really like Ryan as Batwoman, but I want to talk about the villains in this video. In this episode, we're introduced to Victor Zsasz. He was also portrayed over on Fox's Gotham, so some of you may be familiar with the character. I loved Gotham's version, if not just because I loved Kerrigan and how he portrayed him. This makes loving a new version hard, but it didn't stop CW from trying. They introduced him as a hitman working for Safiyah, who was working to eliminate anyone that received that desert rose cure in the last episode. She fears that the search for this cure-all flower will bring unwanted guests to her island, and it is her duty to protect the island and the flower. To me, he seemed a little too easy for a Batwoman to beat, but it fit within the story of her finding her own way, I guess. I would love to see Vic again. I didn't love him as much as Gotham's, but overall, he wasn't the worst villain we've seen in Arrowverse. I think a team up with him and Alice could be really interesting, and they could even know each other already since they both have ties to Safiyah. We also had the introduction of Safiyah this episode. This felt long awaited. She has been or hasn't been taunting Alice since midway last season. She claims that these letters are not from her, but does say that she has Kate and wants Alice to do something for her before she will release her. This could open the door for a Ruby Rose cameo. They haven't said whether or not that was ever a possibility, but I know a lot of people are speculating about it now. Personally, I think that if they're not planning on showing Kate again, what is the point of the storyline? I think it could lead to disappointed viewers if they're not careful. So it'd be really interesting to see it play out. Because to me, if Ruby Rose wasn't planning on coming back at some point as Kate Kane, then why even play with the storyline? Like, just kill her off, close the chapter, move on. So I feel like at some point they might be bringing her back, at least for a cameo or some one-off things. I don't know. I did do a more in-depth talk about Safiyah in my last week's video, so I'll link that below for you to check out. We had another possible name drop for a villain this episode. In the meeting with Ryan, her and Victor mentioned Ryan's ex, Angelique, which does perk up Victor a bit, making me think that she's likely someone powerful in Gotham. There are two possibilities from the comics, but neither one of them are real big characters like that. I think, like, I had to search because nothing came off the top of my head. So this could be Hawkeye's evil version from the comics. She was part of the Crime Syndicate of America, which was a parallel Earth's super villain versions of our Earth's heroes. There was Ultraman, which was Superman, Superwoman, which was Wonder Woman, Owlman, which was Batman, Power Ring, which was Green Lantern, and Johnny Quick for the Flash. This could be interesting for sure to get like these villain sides of each hero, but I don't think it's something that they'll be exploring post-Crisis. They kind of, with Crisis, put everything on one Earth, so I don't see them expanding it back out that very next season. It could also be Angelique Dequoy. She was an agent with a group called Strike Force Europa. Well, I don't think we're going to see that either. The next episode is titled Fair Skin, Blue Eyes, which would fit either one of these comic book appearances. So I'm not really sure what their plan is with Angelique. I do think that we might get her in this next coming episode. There are some other notable mentions of both scenes involving Jacob Kane. There is a new street drug in Gotham, and we see Batwoman take a demon masked dealer out. The drug is called Snakebite, and this is an interesting name to me because we also have a Suicide Squad villain with the same name. If you watched my last video, I did, linked below, I talked about Tatiana's connection to League of Assassins. Well, Snakebite was also briefly in the League. Granted, I feel like you could say that about every villain in Gotham at some point, or really in DC Comics and Heroes. Everybody was in the League at some point. But could we see the League on Batwoman? Even after it was such a dominant force on Arrow for several seasons, I don't know. But I hope this leads into something with Nyssa or Talia or maybe even Thea back in action. Anyway, Jacob tells the Crows that this drug is a mix of psychedelic mushrooms and Scarecrow's fear toxin. This isn't the first time we have seen the toxin mentioned in Arrowverse. It was mentioned in Elseworlds and some other episodes since then. We do know that Jacob Kane was an associate of August Courtwright, which is the man that kidnapped Alice, but all of that was pre-crisis story. So I don't know if maybe they'll retcon some of that. I mean, I guess it's not technically retconning, but I don't know if they'll give him a new post-crisis story, or he was in Arkham so he could have escaped last season when Alice and Mouse were running amok of Arkham. So I think this name drop could be important, could be just an Easter egg. I guess we'll have to wait and find out, but I love these little Easter eggs. Another name drop by Jacob was Jack Napier, which is Joker's name. And I know, like many of you, I perk up when I hear the name. CW has kind of already explained away Joker, saying that he died in 2005. He was the cause of the stolen bus of kids that led to the Kane family car accident, ultimately resulting in Batman snapping and killing him and then disappearing. But with the new multiverse, we have new possibilities. At some point, Jack Napier made a painting with a subliminal reference to Safiyah. Jacob finds his picture in Kate's phone that was recovered from the plane crash. I'm not sure that there will be an on-screen Joker, but the painting will be the subject of episode 5 entitled Gore on Canvas. So I'm very anxious to see what the painting means, if it was really made by the Joker, and what comes of it. But that is pretty much all I have for you guys for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I know it was a short one. I do have a couple more little videos scheduled for this week. I know one of them will be a Flash trailer breakdown because that just dropped a couple days ago. So look forward to that and subscribe if you want to get notifications for that. Thank you.